So I like history and know a fair bit about it, especially the history of England. This is a song called John Barleycorn by Traffic, which had people like Stevie Winwood, Jim Capaldi, can't think of the others. John Barleycorn, about the devil of barleycorn being made into liquor, God forbid. There were three men who came out of the west, their fortunes for to try. And these three men made a song about John Barleycorn must die. They've plowed, they've sown, they've held him in through clouds that bar his head. And these three men made a song about John Barleycorn was dead. They've let him lie for a very long time, till the rains from heaven did fall. And the toaster John strung up his head, and so amazed them all. They let him stand till midsummer's day, till he looked more pale and old. And the toaster John's grown a long, long beard, and so become a man. They've hired men with their sides so sharp to cut him off at the knee. They rolled him, tied him by the waist, serving him most barbarous meat. They've hired men with the sharp pitchforks who pricked him to the heart. And Lord, he has served him worse than that, for he's bound him to the cart. They wheeled him around and around the field, till they came onto a barn. And there they made a solemn oath on poor John Barleycorn. They've hired men with the crabtree sticks to cut 'em from skin and bone. And the miller he has served him worse than that, for he's ground in between two stones. And the toaster John in the nut brown mold, and he's brandy in the glass. And the toaster John in the nut brown mold, for the strongest man at last. So I grew up on a farm in southern Ontario, and one of the big thrills or enjoyments was watching how farming changed from, when I became aware of it at age 8 or 9. And the machinery changed, and the genes for the corn and wheat changed, and yields went through the roof, and things changed color, and you had tanks of this and bags of that. But when I was young, you had a threshing machine that was shared among 3 or 4 farmers, and they'd all work on one farm and then switch to the next farm, and we would have 20 people at dinner. Of course, there were 9 of us, but still. And I would be, as a kid, I'd be running out fruit jars, canning jars full of water, because of course there wasn't plastic then. And tiles went from heavy clay tiles that you had to handle 1 foot at a time to giant 250-foot rolls of plastic tile. and all the water tables dropped, and certain fish disappeared from the river. Hanging out in the woods was my big thrill in life. So, but in any case, this is a process for harvesting wheat when I first grew up, when I first was aware of it. You went around and cut it off at the base of the oat or the wheat plant. And then you had another machine that went and gathered that up and put it into little sheaves, which are those things you see on money, the emblem of wheat thingies tied midway on the stalk. It's an emblem on provincial and federal royalty stuff. And those would lay in the field for a day or two, and then you'd gather them all up, and then you'd make a thing called a stook, which was all of those little sheaf things, 21 or 28 of them, I think, and you would pile them into this little house. I say house because you laid them in a certain way that the rain would run off them, and hopefully it didn't rain too much, and the heads of grain would start growing right on the stalk. So after about 4 or 5 days, depending on the heat and the wind, etc., dew, then we go around and gather, we take that stook apart and throw all the individual pieces, the sheaves, onto a wagon, dry them to where the threshing machine was, which was being run by a giant belt on a stationary engine, a tractor. And then grain would come out one end, threshed grain would come out one end of this giant dust-breathing behemoth all-metal machine. And I remember my mother coming out with her sewing machine to sew up some canvas on some of the conveyor belts. But there you go, bit of history, Southern Ontario, Kitchener-Waterloo area.